Hello, guys, and welcome to Indiana Sports Connection. So, we're going to talk about the football game. You saw the thumbnail. Look, I'm just going by what I saw online. We're going to talk about the fan base. We're going to talk about what happened in this game. We're going to talk about the 75-yard run and all of that in between, and how it's like this college football season thing. And I'm talking about all the games, like everything in totality, from watching all the games from Thursday, Friday, the big games on Saturday. It's like you realize it's not professional football. These guys, even like Arch Manning, a lot of these guys that are just very young, it's just going to take them some time. Even Mendoza for the Hoosiers looked really, really rusty. So, it's just going to take some time. It's going to take some time for these Hoosiers. Should we overreact to everything that's happened? We probably should. And we're going to do that on this episode today. But first, hit that subscribe button down below. This is Indiana Sports Connection. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Aaron, your residential anchor, and it's glad to be back. This is like one of the third videos I've done, and it's just glad to have sports back, because we're going to talk about what the lead up is to all of this. Because right now, January 26th, that was the last time we had like some real sports on, when the Pacers lost in the NBA finals. That was like towards the end of, not January, June 26th. So towards the end of June, from then until now, August 30th, like the end of August, we've like not had any live sports, live team sports really, that we care about for 2 months. So, and it's killed me. Caitlin Clark has been hurt all summer long. So that's not been as exciting to watch this year as it has in years past. So you turn on these games. I mean, I was watching the Ohio State and Texas game before, and yeah, Arch Manning did not look like a polished product. And, the thing is, a lot of these guys, you got to think all of them, him, Mendoza, they're just coming into a new team. They have no preseason. They're not professionals. It's just going to take them some time. So the 75-yard touchdown run, yes, that should be very concerning for the Hoosiers, because that's what happened in some of the big games last year. We just had like one or two plays that really killed us. Jeremiah Love on the long run, like Downs when he returned that punt. It's like a couple of times when you just have mental errors in a game like that, and that's all it really takes to really set you back. So yeah, the 75-yard run, they gotta sure that stuff up. That cannot be like the signature of Cignetti, is that, he gives up big plays. Because yeah, I mean, other than that, I mean, if you take out just a couple of the plays, the two big runs, the defense just completely really stuffed them. And they played Old Dominion, they played a very weird style of offense. That stacked receiver offense, where they were always trying to do something with two receivers really out wide, and they're trying to isolate, people on the inside, because that quarterback's their best runner. But, it's just a strange offense. Not that that should be any excuse, but then again, it's early in the season. Other than those two plays, I mean, I thought Farrell played really, really well on defense. I think he's a dude that's really coming up. I mean, we know the main guys like, Pons and Kamara, our defensive line, Aiden Fisher. So, I mean, the defense played pretty well, but those were two missed assignments, and Cignetti said it on the weak side. And I mean, Indiana's got to shore that stuff up. They really do, because you the college game, you're gonna have, like, when that is their best player, and their quarterback is their best athlete, and you allow him to get out in space. I mean, when you go and play Illinois, they're gonna have three guys like that. And when you go play, when you really play some of the higher teams, they're gonna have four or five guys like that you really got to cover. So early in the season, but it's like Indiana, they have to. Um, Yep, and I was just gonna say that. You know what? A win's a win, and that's all you got to take from it. Is like a win's a win, and um, a win's a win. That's all there is. I mean, Indiana could play this game, and it could be like really, really tight. right down the stretch, even though it did. I mean, the missed field goal, and then they got the ball. It was like 14-27 there. And sorry, I got phone calls coming in over and over again here. But yeah, Indiana, they just had to. I'm sorry. But yeah, it's the, you know, that 75-yard touchdown run. The punt return was huge. I mean, let's talk about that because, that's where, I mean, Indiana had the ball, or, you know, they were down 7-0, and Old Dominion had the ball and was driving the ball. And, well, I got the game on right now. I was just rewatching all the plays from yesterday, but it's like, because that play's coming up right now. But then the punt return, it was just so needed at the time. That is one thing that Indiana did find last year. I mean, I was at the Michigan game. I was not at the game yesterday. I was going to go. My daughter was a little bit sick in the morning, and I ended up not going to the game. And I mean, I had some cheap tickets. I was going to go. Wish I was able to go, but it was a beautiful day. Spent the whole day with my daughter. We were just hanging out. But let's go on and talk about EJ Williams and just some of like what Mendoza was doing in the first half. EJ Williams, Mendoza, who was really missing, kind of like dirted the ball here, overthrew the guy, and that was a little bit later. Um, like when he had the overthrow, that was a little bit later, but um, he hit EJ Williams on like 5 passes in the first half. Surratt did not catch any balls in the first half. I thought that was a little bit alarming that Surratt wasn't more involved. Now I wonder if the routes that Surratt runs, because I mean he does run some deeper routes, if they're not, they're the harder routes for Mendoza to maybe throw. And Curtis Rourke, I mean, I have to say, and I said this in the video last week, is that Curtis Rourke was so accurate with the football. Sometimes when you watch somebody do something and they're so good at it, and they do it over and over again, and they make it look so easy, you just think like somebody else is going to come in here and do the exact same thing, and it's just going to be that easy. But yeah, it's just not that easy. Like he threw those back shoulder throws and was so accurate on the sideline, throwing those balls out to Surratt. Mendoza, just my early on thoughts, yeah, he gets a little bit wild. He does get a little bit like there's a time down by the goal line. It's like he's falling down. He throws the ball like back across his body. I mean, that against the team like Old Dominion, where you're right down by the goal line, you do not want to like take that type of a risk in that situation. I did think that. I was like, what are you doing right there? He was really close to being able to. I thought he was going to really run that ball in right there when he did that. But there are a couple of things where he just gets a little bit mechanical with the ball, and his throwing motion, because I watched the Ohio State game in the Texas game. His throwing motion is a lot like Arch Manning's. I mean, he really gets the ball out quick. He's got a little bit of a three quarter arm that he throws it with, but it was you can tell. I mean, he's got some velocity on the ball. He got a little bit scattered in the pocket more so. I mean, just when I rewatch the game now, I mean, you can definitely see his feet and how his feet are moving, and times where he kind of like drifted off the spot. And when you do that as the quarterback, you're drifting. The timing of the route changes when you aren't really getting your feet set in the right kind of way. I thought like Curtis Rourke, he was just a little bit more polished as far as his footwork and different things, and he didn't have that much athleticism. So I mean, Rourke was going to be a guy that was going to like he was just more going to stand there and pick you apart. Mendoza, you can see, I mean, he's got some moves where he can get like climb up in the pocket or run to the outside and do that a little bit more. But it's going to be, he's probably the guy that I was the most disappointed with. And it's just probably because, look, Curtis Rourke, the end of last year, he was so good. I mean, the way he picked apart like Purdue. I mean, towards the end of the year, beat teams. Our offense looked so good when he was, getting guys in space over the middle and Surratt on the sideline. But I mean, that's just these next 2 weeks leading up to Illinois. This is good bulletin board material for Curt Cignetti, though, because this is going to be this game against Old Dominion. Yeah, if they played like this against Illinois, they would definitely get shellacked. But Illinois and Indiana will be, 3 weeks more experience by the time they get to that game. So sometimes in college football, you just gotta make sure you win the game, that you're not gonna lose to one of these bad teams early on. And then Curt Cignetti, I know I have a lot more faith in him than I did like some of the other coaching staffs, that he's gonna sure up some of these problems and like get. I just think with him that he is a good quarterbacks coach. Cignetti is, and he can be a quarterback guru. So I do have faith in him to help Mendoza along as the season goes on. Let's move on to something else. The running backs were unbelievable because I mean, in the middle of the field, the running backs were going wild. Like between the 20s, they were just absolutely killing it. And I do see a ton of people complaining online. I got written down here, the goal line stands. Well, it's so hard to tell what was actually going on there. Indiana just kept running the same play, it seemed like, over and over and over again. And look, you got to hand it to Old Dominion. They kept plugging up. There were a couple of guys on their team that really plugged up, got in the hole, grabbed the guy, took him backwards. I mean, grabbed Hemby and took him backwards. And was Indiana trying to not do anything? Like, I mean, it looked in one of those spots, they could have run like a play action or something and just practically walked in, but they just tried to run it in like 4 times in a row. They weren't making it happen. I know probably a lot of people are like, oh, our offensive line is supposed to be better this year and all this thing. Look, man, like it's just sometimes you go up against, it doesn't matter who it is. You just go up against a team like Old Dominion and they're really fired up, and you get guys on the goal line and they're really fired up on the goal line and firing off the goal line, and they're going to make it difficult. Their defensive unit for Old Dominion was pretty stout, and they had a couple of linebackers that were really firing through some of those gaps when they were down by that goal line, and they were just killing it. But I'll say this, like Hemby has a burst. You can definitely see even when they get into the next level. Lee Beebe, you can't fumble the football. And I mean, we didn't see a ton of him. Now, Kalon Black, I thought he looked really good in his spots, and I was happy to see him get an opportunity because I watched him a lot last year. He's just seems like a really great guy, great back, like how he goes about his business and everything for Indiana. But I was just happy to see Black get his opportunities there because he's been with Cignetti as long as anybody. But yeah, and then I'm just watching the fumble right here that happened. But yeah, BB, I mean, you got to hang on to the ball, and that was like not really that wild of a play or anything. But then, I mean, this is what happens to Indiana fans. You're sitting there looking at the first quarter, it's 7-0, and people are just going, "Oh, yep, this is it. We're back to being bad again." And you have to stop. You have to stop your brain from thinking that. Now, the Illinois game is going to be huge. Like I will say, if we go to the Illinois game and we just get killed by Illinois, that will be very disappointing. But the other thing, and we'll talk about Kennesaw State later, but they played Wake Forest, and I know Wake Forest is stinky, but that game was like a dogfight. I watched that the other night. That was on like Thursday or Friday night. So we got Kennesaw State next week, and we got Indiana State the week after. But these, I would just say, just calm down. If you're mad, you think Indiana's like gotta, blow all these teams out by a certain amount, or else, they're doomed in football. I would say just backpedal it because we got this runway of these games, and Indiana can't be a team like if we played a top level team early in the year with the transfer guys we got, new quarterback, new system, hopefully as Cignetti's here and he has time to build a program like over the next, 5 years or so. But right now with we have more transfers coming in this year, and that's going to just take probably like the year after next year, that'll be ironed out because he's getting more into the recruiting now. So you can, get those young guys coming in that are going to, be starting. So as they replenish through that, but that is another part of this where you got to give it time. And I think that's across the board. You see wide receivers going from this school to this school and guys going from here to there. And it's just the continuity of your defensive line, your offensive line, your running backs, like all those guys getting used to each other, getting used to being together. And as time goes, like these next few weeks, Indiana is going to put it together. So, I mean, the other thing, the tight ends did not look good. The continuity with the tight ends now, and I know, and I just like his name escaped me because it wasn't Hendershot, but I mean, we lost the tight end from last year, so that's something that really, really got to get together. I mean, I know like Cignetti's coached, always had tight ends, and tight end in college, you got to have a good one. And there were like two different ones played in this game, but it always just seemed like they were either a step slow or out of position, or they didn't get their head cocked around to catch the ball. Um, so I mean, that really can be like an X factor in the college game. But you take it's those two long runs made it look really bad. Indiana got behind the missed field goal, and then Indiana could have pumped the ball in. You got to remember, I mean, Indiana like killed them in time of possession. The time of possession in this game was like 42-18. So like Indiana held the ball for a really long time in between the 20s. I mean, they couldn't really stop Indiana. They were running the ball like about 7 yards every time. So while you look at the scoreboard and they got the long run, they got that. It's like it really in the end it was a couple of mistakes and the team looked a little bit rusty and they looked a little bit rusty on offense. You get that like long touchdown pass. If Mendoza completes that, you go up more by halftime and it starts to look like a route, like a real route. But that just wasn't in the cards. And you know what? Curt Cignetti's going to put this on the bulletin board and probably ream these guys out. I can see that now our football fans are becoming more like our basketball fans, though. I'm looking at X, I'm looking at Twitter, I'm looking at the things that people are saying. Yeah, because like if our basketball team played a game like this against a really shitty team, we would be really pissed off about it, right? Wouldn't we? But when our football team used to play games like this against really bad teams, we'd be happy if we won. And you just got to remember, like before this year, I mean, Indiana was, I mean, I would be happy with 6-6, honestly. Like I told my dad that the other day. It's like, you remember every other year? It's like we'd look at the schedules. Like if we could get 6-6 and get to any type of bowl game, that was like that's what all we were looking for as Indiana football fans. I mean, now we're looking at like practically like 9 wins as the floor for this team with Curt Cignetti. So they got a lot to work on and they got time to figure it out. And look, football, it takes a while to figure it out. Now, would it help like if Mendoza and the receivers, if they did some work away from the field or did something like that, if they had time to do that, that definitely would help because him and Surratt and EJ Williams look good. I would like to see his what he can do on this team. But I think they're going to be just fine. And I got to say, I'm pumped that sports is back, but definitely that first week, I think you get a little bit, and I'm excited to watch the Notre Dame game here in a little bit, but tell me if you get this. It's like, it's back. And then part of your brain, you're just like, oh, this is it. It's like, this is what I'm excited about. It's like, we forget that like when we left like college football, they were playing in the biggest games and they're playing Notre Dame. And, the team was as polished and as put together then as they had been all year. So like that's where it's got to build to, and it's got to build towards that Illinois game. They could get the victory there. I could definitely see and say like, yeah, this team is on track to like make another run and get in the college football playoff. And I think that's what all of us Indiana fans, this is the most pressure that's ever been on an Indiana team ever in the history of Indiana football. Like we've never had a season like we just had. And then we got the coach coming back. a lot of the guys coming back, like a kind of like a blue chip quarterback that was a high, ranking quarterback. And I think a lot of the talk about him going high in the draft and different things like that, probably people aren't going to talk about that at all. Um, he might be at Indiana for a couple of years. Who knows? I mean, he just looks like I think he's got 2 years of eligibility. So I think he could, he just needs some work. I don't know what they were doing there at Cal, but they definitely didn't have Cal just didn't have the system that, Cignetti had. So, from Mendoza, he's got all the tools there. It's almost a little bit like Anthony Richardson. He just kind of got to put it together and get the accuracy and get on the same page with some of these guys. But thank you so much for joining me. And yeah, we won. Thanks, Ryan. Yes, we won. We need some improvement. We'll just go from there. I didn't even know what to say in this episode, but I didn't want to rip the team too bad. But I was satisfied. It's just like sometimes football is just unlucky. And, it is a little bit unlucky. You can get a bad break here, bad break there. And I think we saw a little bit of that. And we saw a little bit of the play was just, the level of intensity. It was a little lackluster, I'm going to say. If the basketball team played that way, I'd be ripped. I hate seeing when that guys dog it anywhere, under any circumstance. You can't dog it in my book, So even if I see it jogging off the field, that's why I love that Kalon Black. This dude, he just rips it from sideline to sideline. But thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Indiana Sports Connection. Until next time, stay classy out there, Hoosier fans.